I'm Teresa. I'm the Senior User Experience Designer with the Moodle Cloud team. And I'm going to talk through a bit about the custom domains project, which has been going for quite some time, and I just spoke about it briefly in the last showcase. But because I didn't quite complete that goal, I just wanted to go through some of the process that we've done to lead up to this point, and you can kind of then see a little bit of the complexity. So sorry, I'm just going to grab control. So for those who aren't familiar with this custom domains project, what it will allow our customers to do is to use their own domain, which they already own with a domain provider. Instead of using a subdomain.moodlecloud.com, they'll be able to have something else .com. So the example that I used as we started looking into what the customer experience of this will look like, there's obviously a huge technical side, which was explored earlier. But as we looked into the customer side, I've just used Max as an example, who has a custom domain and they want to use it for a Moodle Cloud site. So this is, I guess, a happy path. So what we did initially last year was to do a service design blueprint. If you haven't done one of these before, it's just a good way to explore the process of a particular use case like this and be able to look at what's happening front of stage, so things that the customer is interacting with, and also what's happening backstage. So that might be interacting with different backstage processes, people processes, automated things, different systems. So it's good when there's a huge amount of complexity to be able to visualize all of it as not just a user journey, but how that integrates with the various systems behind the scenes. So this is how we started out brainstorming this together to get an understanding at a high level of what this process looked like. And this has evolved over time. So once we did that, I got into doing some wireframes, which I guess is the more visual design aspect of this. And as I mentioned earlier, this is the UI design is actually a fairly simple part of this process. So I didn't go too nuts with these. These wireframes are a mixture of wireframes and screenshots, which are kind of hacked together. I like wireframing in Miro because there's no temptation then to get too in-depth into is the corner radius right and that kind of thing. There's a lot of post-its on here. This went through some comments and iterations, and that then brought us to the final UI design, which again has gone through a lot of iterations in terms of finalizing the copy and the micro copy. So Julia has been really helpful to go through all of this. That was on the product experience team presentation of what she's been working on. And also the rest of the team has been kind of collaborating as we go through this. So just to show you how this process will look, when a customer with an eligible plan logs into the Moodle Cloud portal, they'll see a new button, which allows them to upgrade to a custom domain. If they click on that button, they'll then get a modal popping up, which has a bit more information. This is a little bit heavy on information, but there is a lot that we do need people to know, just because using a custom domain in the way that we have this set up is a bit different to adding it in, say, WordPress, where they can actually host the domain themselves. In this case, you need to bring your own domain and you need to have access to it and have an understanding of what that involves, which does also involve a cost. So we've given them this information. They can enter in the domain that they want and they can request the change. We're also linking out to a knowledge base article in quite a few places because this is quite a technical process. There's a few bits and stages involved and we want people to have a good understanding. So Julia's also done a lot of work in drafting up this knowledge base article so people can understand what the process of what this is going to look like. And then once they've completed the form, they'll see an alert saying it's been sent out. So they'll then receive an email which will have even more information. This is not the most up-to-date version, but this will give you the idea. So just again, clarifying that there's going to be a lot of requirements and there are some things that you need to know. They'll be able to then click this button and go through to a payment page, which I'm not exactly sure what it looks like. So at the moment it's a grey box, but it's one that was done through ChargeBee. And then once they've done their payment, they'll then go through the actual process of then setting it up. So what that looks like, don't worry, I'm coming to the end of my little spiel, is this, which is a nice big flowchart. Who doesn't like a nice big flowchart? So to talk you through it quickly, this is what I just went through, logging into the portal, filling out that form and receiving that email. From that point, they can decide if they want to proceed. If they do want to proceed, they'll proceed to a payment. And then that will take you through to the next phase. Behind the scenes, it will send a receipt email, of course, and it will also log a new issue in Freshdesk, which we use for our support team. And from there, it gets taken over by our engineering team. So they'll be able to look up the domain that a person has provided, go through some steps to see if it can be used in the way that we want to be able to set it up, and have some canned responses of what to do if it isn't, for example, registered and valid, or if they've already got a site on there and they maybe don't understand that it will not still point to that site anymore. And based on that, we'll be able to give them some information. So if you haven't set up a domain before, it can be a bit of a technical process, and there isn't really a way around that. But we're going to try and make it as simplified as possible, with instructions to their particular domain provider. So once they've gotten that information, it's back to the customer. They have to log into their domain provider and set these entries up themselves, and then let the team know that that's completed. Fingers crossed they got it right, and we don't have to go into troubleshooting, because that's where things get a bit messy. Then that's when all the technical work will happen behind the scenes with our engineering team. And then they'll be able to say that, yes, it's completed, and Max can test his site and be super happy that he can access it from his own .com instead of moodlecloud.com. So as you can see, there's a lot to this. There's not a lot of UI to this. And Andrew, I just saw your question pop up. The intention for this at the moment, because it's a new feature, it's validated in the sense that we know that there are people who want it, and we know that it's worth the effort to make it available. We don't know how many people are going to be using it, or in what way, or what kind of issues are going to come up. So to begin with, this is going to be a somewhat manual process. Some of these emails are going to be automated. I want to try and make as much use of canned responses as we can. And then as we get a bit of a better idea of what this looks like out in the wild, we can then see whether it's worth prioritizing automating some of these processes as we go forward.